Swala, the constitutional jurist and author.
Ladies and gentlemen, valued ladies and gentlemen, I should say, acquiescent to the severe time constrictions to which Dr. Ernst Roets, over whom, alas, I have no authority anymore, I should say, has subjected me, I shall come to the point forthwith. My focus is on Western civilization and Western communities in South Africa, and on our relations with other communities in this subcontinent. The Afrikaner nation, volk as we call it in Afrikaans, and as it is also called in various Germanic languages, is a nation within the broader scope of Western civilization. Civilization is an encompassing culture, hence the German equivalent Kultur. Thus viewed, our closest civilizational kin are nations sharing Western civilization with us, of which there are many, including, obviously, Dutch, Flemish, Germans, English, Scots, Welsh, Hungarians, Czechs, and so on and so forth, Italians, Serbs, and yes, how else, also Americans too, and Argentinians, Portuguese, French, and Spanish, and various others, even though the latter two, namely the French and the Spanish, are actually made up by a variety of nations. For very long, we Western nations were not conscious of our shared Western, of the shared Western cultures, which we in fact share with one another. We were not really aware of it. Afrikaners, for one, were condemned by basically all, also fellow Westerners, and severely so for apartheid. That, I should say, fortunately, however, is now far behind us. And among many other reasons for not being sharply conscious of our common civilization, is that the post-war world, the post-Second World War world, was ideologically defined and not a matter of civilizational identity. As a matter of fact, civilizational identity was downscaled to the sphere almost of the non-conscious. We were almost not aware of it. But profound changes in the politico-cultural scene have occurred over the last decades. The Soviet Union, fortunately, and the communist bloc it once led, collapsed in 1991. Francis Fukuyama thereafter, in 1993, in The End of Civilization and the Last Man, one of his many books, but perhaps the one who drew most attention, proclaimed the end of history thanks to the perceived final triumph of liberal democracy. Samuel Huntington, however, in 1996, in his Clash of Civilizations and the Remaking of World Order, announced what one might call the re-beginning of a centuries-old civilizational and inter-civilizational history and dynamics. Fukuyama was essentially wrong. As Secretary of State Marco Rubio, without mentioning Fukuyama's by name, also said on 14 February 2026 in Munich, just the other day. Precisely because of the re-emergence of our civilizational course, Rubio urged the ideologically befuddled leadership of Western Europe to regain its civilizational identity and purpose in the same way as the United States is also now seemingly increasingly doing. And precisely that is also the reason why Westerners of various nations are assembled under the banner of Lexis Libertas in Pretoria. Keenly aware of our common destiny as Westerners and intensely aware that we draw our sustenance from our common civilizational fountain, but also as keenly aware, and that is very important, of a sound modus vivendi we have to cultivate with the inhabitants of other civilizations, including the inhabitants of this country. Huntington was, however, not entirely right. He was in part a little bit wrong, actually, in two respects. First, the primary clash facing the West, going back to the title of his work, Clash of Civilizations. Firstly, the primary clash facing the West is not from outside the West, but from within. From liberalism, which is a good thing, decaying, however, into the malignant force of globalist liberalism, or stated differently, universalist atomism, or another equivalent, the follies of progressivism. This resulted in individual liberty, once a supreme civilizational asset, decaying into a lethal force within the body of the West. Previously, this previous lethal force, almost lethal force, was Marxism. Now it is globalist liberalism, which condemns the West to death by insisting that the West dissolve into a fluid mass of human atoms devoid of a distinct culture and civilization. In other words, that it assimilates itself into nothingness. In consequence, the gates of the West, particularly Western Europe and the United States, must be opened in terms of this globalist ideology, must be opened and walls demolished for masses of human waves to finally wash away the West to oblivion, leaving no Western civilization and no nation constituting it. The great Huntington must also be qualified in a second respect. Civilizations are the most enduring fact of human life and human history, but they are not necessarily doomed to fight fatal clashes. We in South Africa should know that. We must be keenly aware of that. They are not necessarily destined for an unavoidable deadly collision course. All civilizations, Western, Islamic, Sino, Japanese, Orthodox, Indian, etc., face forces within their own fold, purposely seeking their annihilation or unwittingly steering themselves along the path of self-destruction. The West in the main because of globalist liberalism, and Islam, interesting, because arguably of the consequences of fundamentalist extremism, which is as deadly. Hence, civilizations are also to make common cause. I think it is in a sense happening. And strangely enough, the new policy now emanating from the MAGA movement in the United States, which is entirely something different from what it used to be, from the new con movement, is much more directed towards cultivating of sound relations among civilizations, as I've said, than it used to be the case with the new con movement. This brings us to nations specifically in South Africa. European states are largely nation states, more specifically single nation states, safe for the self-destructing folly of mass migration, hopefully soon to be arrested and turned around. In consequence, European nations can and must enlist their various states to defend and protect their nations. And all the nations together acting in unison, their common Western civilization. In contrast, South Africa is not a nation state. It is, at best, a multi-nation state, consisting of a variety of ethnic and cultural groups. We know that. Zulus, Pedis, Tswanas, Sothos, Xhosas, Vendas, and so on and so forth, and others, as well as some minorities. It's home, South Africa, it's home to black and white. A colored or brown people is arguably also emerging. Well, it's always been there, but it is now emerging into a political force. And then there is the Afrikaner volk, under tremendous pressure, but now more pronounced than in many decades. And I think something else is also developing in South Africa. And that is, I think we are developing distinctive English communities like the Afrikaners with salient Western characteristics. Moreover, in South Africa, multiple civilizations meet, African and Western civilization most prominently. Hence, apart from a multi-nation state, South Africa is also a multi-civilizational state. For several decades now, there is an urge in South Africa also in state policy in pursuit of so-called nation building. Nation building of an apparent homogeneous South African nation, and on that score also something like a non-civilizational state, just no civilization. But the prospects for achieving that are now as much a pipe dream as never before. So the best advice to get is to get over that and to leave our nations and our civilizations and our communities alone. This was the wise advice of the great political philosopher Johan Degenaar 3 decades ago, advocating for a free society instead of this farcical nation, this onding in beautiful Afrikaans, or then this non-being, this homogeneous nation. Yet, renouncing this non-being is no calamity. It is no big deal, because we are not in need of a nation. Through struggles and mutual care, through bloodshed and through peace, through quarrels and outreach and the like, the inhabitants of South Africa, of this part of the world, this part of our continent, have not forged a nation. Yet, perceptive journalist Alistair Sparks was right when quite some time back he said there is something like a South African mind. I'll come back to that in a minute. A folk like a civilization, and that's another problem that can face any nation, a folk like a civilization can be annihilated by globalist liberalism and assimilationist follies of homogeneous nation-building passions. However, let it be known that every nation and every folk, especially small ones like us Afrikaners, are also ever prone to the genocidal, committing a genocide against yourself, to genocidal blows of religious, moral, or ideological policies of purificationism. Make yourself so completely purified to such an extent that you erase your own existence, which, if left unchecked, leaves but the ashes of sects on the deceased body of what once was the nation. This is also a danger facing us. Let that be fended off with the same vigor as assimilationism. So yes, in the final analysis, we are plagued by a wicked oligarchy called the South African government, and embittered hate peddlers like Malema. But In the main, the South African mind reflects a commitment of all our communities actually. But in the main, the South African mind reflects a commitment to peace and mutual care, and most crucial, a mutual recognition for what we are, for the communities, the volkere, the nations we are, and for the civilizations we belong to. And there is a vigorous, organized civil society in South Africa. Finally, to my mind, strong enough to overcome the hate peddlers and the oligarchy fueled, the South African government, the oligarchy, fueled by corruption, fraud, folly, and failures. Just as world history has not reached a close in the beginning of the 1990s, the term final constitution, of which I've written a lot, popular since the late 1990s, should certainly not to be taken to suggest that South African history has reached its end. It has certainly not. There is much ahead, including, most importantly, nations in this country advocating for and developing self-governance, as various speakers have already pleaded for this morning, self-governance as behoves truly adult people and self-respecting communities. A self-respecting community and adult people do not settle to be subordinate, thus also forming the basis for sound inter-civilizational and intercommunal endeavors, and for a South Africa way better than the one we currently have. Thank you.